Let's get into our second conversation. The federal government has promised to produce at least 31 million metric tons of grains in 2024 as a way of combating food inflation, creating jobs, reducing poverty, and responding to other issues. President Bola Tinubu's emergency food security. Well, Minister of State for Agriculture and Food Security, Senator Aliyu Abdullahi, stated this at the opening session of the 6th edition of Seed Connect Conference and exhibition, which focuses on the role of the seed industry and ensuring Africa's food and nutrition security in Abuja. Now, the minister reveals that Nigeria's seed requirement for 5 major crops of rice, maize, wheat, soybeans, and sorghum in 2024 is 312,555.69 metric tons of seed, which is expected to give almost 31 million metric tons of grains. Well, and there you have it. To discuss this, I'm joined by a senior lecturer at the Department of Agricultural Extension and Rural Development, University of Ibadan, Dr. Idris Olabode Badiro. Thank you, Doctor, for joining us. Doctor has about 20 years cognate experience in planning, management, monitoring, and evaluation of agricultural and rural development projects. Thank you once again for joining us. The Minister of Agric has outlined a series of critical pathways to solve the food security challenges. First, the short-term, immediate, and the long-term action. So let's start from the immediate impact with the target of producing about 31 million metric tons of grains in 2024. How do you see this translate into lower food prices for consumers?
Well, thank you for having me. And I feel so honored to be on your program. 31 million metric tons of grains is a lot. Consider the fact that the International Grain Council, as at last year, estimated Nigeria's need to be around 21 million metric tons. So if the government is targeting 32 million, I think it's a lot. And just like it's known in simple economics, if we have abundant supply in the country, the tendency is that there will be a kind of reduction because as long as we don't have scarcity, there is that tendency that the prices of products will come down. That is what the government is expecting, and that is if all other things, if they are held constant, that is expected to be the situation. The prices of goods are expected to come down if this materializes. Let me stop there.
Okay. Well, there's a challenge of post-harvest losses, which are estimated to be as high as 40% for some crops. What measure do you think can be, taken to mitigate these losses? I know you talked about the fact that currently Nigeria only produces about 21 million metric tons of grains, isn't it?
Yeah, the estimation of the International Grain Council is that our needs will be around 21 million metric tons. So I said, if the government is targeting 31, 32, I think that is very good. Consider the fact that if there will be losses, if there will be some shortfalls, Nigeria will still be able to meet up with its needs. Now, going to the issue of post-harvest losses, at times it could even be up to like 60, 70% in some instances. And it could be as low as 30%. And the ways that have been used in the past and that they've been tested and found proven is for us to have seeds that right from the time that they're working on the seeds, they make sure that the seeds that they are producing are those seeds that are resistant to pest infestation. And if we have good seeds, I think we have started on a very good note. So, and that is where the role of the National Agricultural Seed Council comes into play. So the kind of seeds that will be, made available to the farmers to plant will be seeds that are viable, they are strong, they are able to withstand the stress of during planting and after harvesting. Now, beyond that, is for the farmers to be taken through good agricultural practices so that at the end of the day, they will not take some of the seeds, some of the diseases and the pests that are on the field. They will not take them along with them into the store. At the store, at the storage level, we need to make sure that the storage facilities are okay, and that we have the necessary facilities and as well the necessary knowledge to manage whatever we have in the store. We have a lot of grain silos in Nigeria. We have a strategic grain reserve, and I think these are people. The people who are managing them are people who actually know they know what to do. Now, beyond what the government have in the strategic grain reserve, like I said, we need a lot of training and a lot of trainings to make sure that our farmers they have good practices, so that at the end of the day, whatever they have in store, they'll be able to manage them very well. But whatever we have in store, if it does not get to the final consumers, it's as good as efforts that are not profitable. So we have to make sure that the network of roads are good. We have to the logistics, how to make sure that all those things get to the market on time are also worked on. And I am happy that I listened to the first guest that was talking about the massive infrastructure that the past government put in place. And we hope that the Tinubu administration will continue and able to surpass what the previous administrations have done in this regard. Because if we look at the issue of agriculture, it's not something that we look at in isolation. Looking at it in isolation is why we seem to be having many of the problems that we're having. If the roads are not good, there's nothing the farmers can do. If power is epileptic, they will not be able to do processing, because if the climate is not good enough, you need some equipment to actually manage the weather to make it look as if to kind of mitigate against the effect of the weather. And if some of these things, you need massive infrastructure to make them happen. So the government, the best they can do is make sure that that enabling environment is provided. If the enabling environment is provided such that the farmers can easily access their farms, they can easily access the market, and also whatever they need to preserve whatever they have in their storage facilities. If they could have it, I think would have a lot to smile about in the near future.
Take you back a little bit. You talked about the fact that we have silos, storage facilities, but why are we not maximizing these facilities if we have them, across the state of the Federation? And what is the most pressing challenge that we face that we've not been able to maximize in these facilities?
Yeah, thank you so much. There is a lot of disconnect between the federal and the state governments in many of the things that we have in the country. Most of these, the silos, mostly they are owned by the federal government. And the truth about it is that they use them strategically to store grains and to store agricultural produce, so that when we have when we have emergencies, they can resort back to these storage reserve, grain reserves to cushion the effect of those emergencies. And the government has been doing very well in that regard. If you could remember during I think it was this 2015 flood or so, they brought out some of these things. recently to some of the palliatives that were being shared, some of them were actually taken out of the grain reserve. But where I said there is a disconnect between the federal and the state is that in many instances, or let me say in all the cases, the federal government does not have a farmer of its own. The farmers are based in the states, in the different states and local governments. So if the state governments and the local governments do not do their bit, there is much that the federal government could do, and they can only end whatever we see can only end where the synergy that exists between them, where how good that synergy is, and that is what can determine what we are going to see at the end of the day. So I think the government, the strategic grain reserves, they have served the purposes for which they were actually created, which is actually to have something from us, from the farms, so that they can serve as a kind of a fallback for us when they are a crisis situation, and they have been doing that. The other kinds of
Hello, Mr. Badru. Well, I think perhaps we'll get back to Mr. Badru. Difficult to hear Mr. Badru there, but talking about, there's a need that the government needs to address the issue of policies such as trade restrictions as well, and market distortions, that hinder agricultural growth. And of course, there's also need to talk about the role of research institute. I mean, that's where I wanted to ask him. Yeah, so thank you for joining us again, Dr. Badru. So how can the government promote collaboration between research institutes? Because you talked about how there's a need for the state and the federal government to collaborate, right? But let's bring in the research institute. Let's talk about the promotion of research institutes and farmers, to develop innovative agricultural technologies.
Yeah, thank you so much. We need to be more serious about research than we are currently. We have a lot of agricultural research institutes in Nigeria. In fact, our research institutes, the number of research institutes that we have in Nigeria, they are not comparable with the number of research institutes that we have in the whole of the West African region put together. But the problem has always been that we have our staff who get paid, who do the much that they can do, but there has not been enough funding for the research, the actual research work for which they were employed. And it's not as if these researchers are a lazy set of people, because some of them still get grants from universities and research institutes from abroad to carry out some researches in collaboration with all these research institutes. And by the end of the day, who owns the output of these researches? It's those people who actually paid who collaborated with them, who funded some of this research. So the government actually needs to do more in this regard. I won't deceive you. We have the best of the breeders, geneticists that you could think of in this country. So what the government only needs to do is to make sure that what is actually used as what is devoted, the fund devoted to the research work itself is actually upped a bit, so that they can actually do what is expected of them. The research institutes are owned by the federal government. I don't think there's any state government that owns any research institute in Nigeria. So the bulk actually falls on the table of the federal government to make sure that this happens. So we have what it takes. The only thing is that the government needs to make sure that the researchers actually do what they are employed to do by providing the tools that they need to actually do the work. If you go to NIOT, go to CRIN, go to NCRI, you see researchers that are well trained, and they are on continuous training. But no matter what you know, if you do not have the resources to actually do what is expected of you, will not be seeing so much results.
Okay. You talked about, of course, we have to go now, but let me ask you this before I let you go. You talked about the fact that we need to empower farmers or give incentives and all of that. Where does it seems that we're focusing on the big farmers, commercial farmers, right? But where does the small farmers come in, the peasant farmers, those who are in the locals, who need to, local environment, who need to farm and feed their families? Talk to us about it. Where do we need to bring them in? And finally, talk to us about the need for sustainability of this initiative. Yes, deploying this, it's very applaudable. It's been applauded, but sustainability is also what we need to talk about as we wrap up now quickly.
Yeah, thank you so much. If we are not going to be mischievous or be unfair to the federal government, they have been trying with respect to the small-scale farmers. They have been providing a lot of assistance to them, but the assistance is just not enough. That is just what we'll say. Most of the programs that have come in the past, many of them actually targeted the small-scale farmers, and we will still need to continue doing that because they produce more than 60% of what we have and what we feed on and what we eventually use in other sectors of the economy. Now, with respect to how can we make the interventions that we are having, all the initiatives that we can make them sustainable. You see, we need to focus our attention more on the state governments. We should focus less on the federal government. The kind of attention that the kind of fixation that we have on the federal government, as if it's the federal government that will do everything, is actually one of the problems or the major problem that we are facing in the area of agriculture. You see, the agricultural development programs that is more or less like the extension arm of the Ministry of Agriculture through which they reach the small-scale farmers in many of the states are comatose. They are only existing on paper. You only see structure. The mandate to actually make them work actually falls on the state governments. The best the federal government can do is to come up with a policy. But if the state governments are not ready to key into these policies, there will continue to be problems. So we need to focus our attention more on them. Let them realize that making agric work is more than changing the names of agencies from time to time. It is more about staffing these agencies with the right set of people and making sure that we give them the right tools to work. We have a lot of research products that are lying on the shelves that have not reached the farmers because the link between the research and the farmers is grossly missing. We are not paying enough attention to this particular arm of that link between the research and the farmers. So we need to work on this. We need to make sure that we strengthen our extension, and if we want to make, agriculture to be sustainable in Nigeria.
I think we'll just have to leave it there. Thank you so much for your time, Dr. Idris Olabode Badiru is a senior lecturer at the Department of Agricultural Extension and Rural Development, University of Ibadan. Thank you for your time on Business Nigeria.
Thank you so much for having me.
And